So my experiences growing up, I was raised, you could say, a-religious, without religion. It just wasn't even really discussed. We still had scripture in school, but it wasn't like a religious school. I just went to public schools. High school, I went to a selective school, but I did leave for my senior years because I wanted to focus on music, and that particular school at the time didn't have the best music department. But I was raised without religion. So what's interesting is it's very common for people to grow up with religion culturally, and then they reach adulthood or their teenage years and they decide this isn't for me. Whereas I'm somewhat the reverse. Now, religion is a loaded concept, it's a loaded word. There's a lot of connotations surrounding that word. And the thing is, the word spirituality doesn't really cover it either. Because in my late teens, I definitely gravitated towards spirituality, my early 20s, basically all of my 20s. And I still consider myself interested in spirituality. I still believe in it. However, I do have my gripes with it. I've got issues with spirituality, New Age spirituality. In particular, it doesn't address the intellect, in my opinion. It doesn't address the reality of the human intellect. And I totally get the concept of it's the journey from the head to the heart. I dig that. I think that's true. However, where am I meant to put the intellect? Because there is an intellect there, and the reality is we live in a rational world. We have to make rational decisions. We can't just be all love and light 24/7 because we're just going to get taken advantage of in this financial world, in this merchant-based buying and selling world, business world that we occupy. So it's not the whole story to me. And I personally, I have an intellect. I like thinking things through. I'm fascinated. I'm a curious individual. I like mathematics, and I do believe the physical universe has a mathematical basis. What's interesting to me is where does mathematics come from? And you could say mathematics was created by humans, but I believe that the things that mathematics points to and describes was obviously not created by humans. You could call it nature, but then I'd ask you, where does nature come from and why nature? So that's where I arrive at the notion of some kind of creator or originator, some kind of origin of the universe, and I don't subscribe to the Big Bang. I do subscribe to the Big Bang, but the idea that it came out of nothing makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's not like it has a duty to make sense to me or any human, but I just personally believe that the universe is intelligible in the sense that the universe is able to be made sense of. And if you don't believe that, then stop using your phone, stop using any electronic devices, because this is all based on the idea that the universe is intelligible and that we can understand it and that we can harness it, that we can master it. So if you don't believe that's possible, stop using all your technology and go live in a hut in the wilderness, which doesn't sound like a bad idea, but you see my point. I believe the universe is intelligible, and so following that premise, I believe the origin of the universe should be intelligible. Even if it doesn't make sense, there is always a sense in nonsense, and there is always nonsense in sense. Not in sense, but within sense. So, I believe the universe is intelligible. I don't buy the idea that something comes from nothing. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It makes way more sense that there is some kind of creator, that there is some kind of originator or some kind of origin. Whatever you believe that origin of the universe to be, I think it's undeniable that there is some kind of origin, or at least there is some kind of container for all this stuff that we experience in our lives, all this stuff that we experience that we call the world, that we call the cosmos. You can't deny that this experience is occurring. So, what is the container of this experience? What is this experience held within? Nothingness? But where did the nothingness come from? You mean it's just here? You mean it's just here? Yeah, but here exists. I just thought of something which I won't bring up, but here exists in relation to there being nothing. Here exists because of conditions, you could say. There have to be conditions in place for us to experience the here and now. So, overall, what I wanted to discuss, and I have absolutely no notes for today, I just wanted to riff a little bit for today. Maybe I'll do a shorter episode, maybe a longer one. I was actually feeling a bit tired today, but I just wanted to see how we go. I just wanted to commit to doing this each day until I get sick of it, and then I take a break, and then I'll come back. We'll see what happens. But what I wanted to discuss, to me, oh, that's right. So I was talking about spirituality and where to put the intellect, because I do suspect that the universe, the physical universe, nature, has a mathematical basis, or it can at least be understood through mathematics. And I like mathematics because it makes me smarter. It helps me understand what's going on, how to think. It actually teaches me how to think. And I feel that language has a mathematical basis. I feel like basically everything has a mathematical basis. Now, I'm not saying that love doesn't exist, and I don't mean infatuation. I mean the love of the universe, the love of empathy. Now, whether that's mathematical, I don't really believe that. I don't really believe, because that gets towards atheism. I still believe there is an origination of mathematics. I believe in a hierarchy of the universe, and I don't see mathematics at the apex, but I see it just below the apex. I haven't figured out this system fully, but just below, I don't know how far down below, but it's definitely below the apex. So that's my issue with New Age spirituality, is that it doesn't really account for the intellect. And after a certain point, we have to make rational decisions because we live in a rational world. And if we don't do that, then we'll basically end up homeless. That's what I feel based on my own experiences. So overall, what point that I wanted to make is that I believe that science and religion, or you could say science and spirituality, are not mutually exclusive. I believe they can work together. I don't know why there's this concept that there's a war, there's a schism between God and science. I feel like they are compatible and they work hand in hand. I don't see why there's a schism. I think that is silly. I think it's a bit silly. I think they work hand in hand. And when you view it that way, it means that there's a place for the human intellect as well as the human heart. I think they have to both work together in tandem. Is that the correct term? In tandem? They have a symbiotic relationship. You don't want to be too intellectual. You don't want to be too based in the heart. Because too based in the heart, you'll get taken advantage of. Too based in the intellect, you'll get heartless, basically. You become cold. too cold and detached, let's say. So I believe spirituality and science can cooperate and coexist. And spirituality can be like a light for science. Now, when I say science, I don't mean the institution of science necessarily. I don't mean scientists necessarily. But I do believe in the scientific method. I think it's legit. I think it's legitimate. Otherwise, again, how would we have all this technology? I recommend doing some classes in science, especially the ultra spiritual people. I recommend taking some classes in science and doing some scientific experiments, and you'll realize how rigorous that system is. It's extremely rigorous how testing works, making a hypothesis, testing it rigorously, blah, 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 forming conclusions that get tested by other people. Even just look into electricity and electromagnetism. Now, there's the whole Nikola Tesla thing. There's lots of conspiracies as to, are we told the whole truth with scientific knowledge, or are things kept from us by the government? Now, that's a whole different question. But electricity is a thing, okay? Again, throw away your phone if you don't believe it to be a thing. And basically, with this technology, the way data works, we're talking about the nanoscale. We're talking about nanometers, and we're talking about nanoseconds. Okay, so the space between moments, like from right now to right now, that distance, and breaking it up, what is it, 1,000,000 times into 1,000,000 units, something like that, 10 to the minus 8, something around there. It's like 1,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair, something like that. You can look up the precise numbers. I'm just guesstimating here. But we're talking about these scales. And I think it's important to be aware of that so you understand what's going on within your phone, basically, or within your computer. There is a lot of micro interactions occurring. And I personally see that as validation for science. However, too much science can go wrong. I don't think science accounts for morality at all. And some atheists have attempted to make that claim that we don't need God, we don't need a creator, we don't need an originator of the universe to account for morality. But after recent events, after seeing how science can go wrong, after seeing how scientists can be bought and paid for by whoever is funding them, you start to realize maybe science needs some kind of guiding principle. Maybe there needs to be some kind of divine authority guiding science and scientific principles. Because otherwise, what's that Dostoevsky quote? If there is no God, then anything is permissible. There are no guidelines. There's no reason for science to operate within any boundaries. So I don't believe that science can explain morality. Maybe it can in terms of social evolution, but ultimately, I don't think it accounts for this, for the conscience. Again, you could explain it with social evolution, but still, where did social evolution come from? Where did the mechanism of evolution come from? You just ask these basic questions. You don't need a massive philosophical counter-argument. You just ask, where does this stuff come from? Where does the sense of beauty come from? Where does symmetry come from? Why do we like symmetrical things? Now, there is this kind of inversion of beauty in modern society. That's not my area of expertise. I'll let other people discuss that. You can look up videos on that. But some people try to make out this idea that beauty is subjective. which I just don't think that is the case. I think people experience beauty subjectively. I think people experience art subjectively, but I think there are objective means, there are objective principles as to what makes art good, what makes music good. Even just, you can look at man-made things, things made by humans, human-made, man-made, but even just look at a flower. I don't think there is a single human on the earth. I'm just assuming here. I don't think there is a single human on earth that would look at a beautiful ripe flower and call it ugly. I don't think such a human exists. And I think due to its beauty is the sense of color. And we can understand color through mathematics and through science. We can understand the mysteries of color. That's what I mean. Science actually makes you appreciate the physical universe more. And it makes you in awe. It makes you appreciate and have gratitude and have awe for this universe that we inhabit and the creator of such a universe, the infinity behind the universe. So to me, science and mathematics actually enhances one's experience of God and God's creation. However you want to put that in your own words, however you want to understand that, but I think you know what I'm talking about. And so science and mathematics can help us understand color, how humans perceive color, how the human eye works, how optics works, how light works. And I think it comes down to symmetry on some level. There may be more components to it, but I think that's what we find beautiful in flowers, is their symmetrical nature. Now, there is also beauty in imperfection, but it's the reason I would say why we look at a rotten piece of fruit and we don't really call that beautiful. Now, you could call it beautiful in terms of it being real and part of existence and everything that is alive being beautiful. But generally, we are repulsed as humans. We are repulsed by rotten fruit, rotten apples, mold, etc. Now, again, you could say that is an evolutionary function. We are designed to be repulsed by rotten fruit and vegetables so that we don't eat them, so that we can survive and the species can reproduce. You can make that argument, but again, really, like, why should we reproduce? Why reproduce? If there's no God, logically and rationally, it makes sense that we don't reproduce because life is suffering. Life is suffering. Old age, sickness, death as resulting from birth. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how well off you are. You will go through old age at the very least. You will experience sickness and eventually you must experience death. So life is suffering. Whether you believe in it or not, it just is suffering. So if there's no God, no creator, no originator of the universe, it would make rational sense to kill oneself and to make the species go extinct, because why endure this? Why endure this experience? So that's why I don't, again, why I don't think that is rational. Well, I mean, why that is the case. I think humans believe in reproduction for reasons that humans don't even understand. But I believe it's to do with beauty, love, and the sense of purpose and meaning in the universe. So I believe there's a mathematical basis to the physical universe, but I just don't think mathematics is the whole story. I think science helps us understand God's creation, but I don't think science is the whole story. and you need to marry science with God in order to see the bigger picture of what's going on. You need to have both. To me, they work hand in hand. I don't see any issue with that whatsoever. And I feel like it's about time we merged the two together, because we've seen what happens when we go too far one way, too far the other way. I believe God and spirituality benefit from science, and I believe science benefits from God and spirituality. So the sooner we figure that out, and the sooner that we resolve that tension and conflict between those two realms, the quicker we can evolve as a species, and the better that life will flourish on Earth and for human societies and for civilization. And the sooner we can evolve internally and externally and just basically live better lives and understand ourselves better and find a greater sense of peace within ourselves, so that we can better understand the mysteries of the cosmos for the sake of understanding God's creation, for the sake of fulfilling our purpose in the cosmos as custodians of the universe. And perhaps one day we can meet other species scattered throughout the universe. And as I mentioned in the last episode, I don't ascribe necessarily to UFOs. I believe if there are intelligent species, they are interdimensional, they are invisible. That's what I suspect. And I think it's highly probable, just looking at probability and the immensity of the universe, that there are other forms of intelligent life. There's other forms of intelligent life on the Earth. It makes rational sense that there would be other forms of intelligent life through the universe. And I think it's quite logical that perhaps they have evolved, or perhaps they exist in a non-physical format as well. Even just given the evidence of artificial intelligence, because I thought intelligence was limited to biology, but if we can have artificially intelligent systems, then maybe intelligence isn't limited to biology. However, AI as it stands, it's based in neural networks and it's based in language models. So I don't think we've got independent thinking entities yet, but I think we have entities that are capable of learning very quickly and that are capable of pattern recognition, advanced pattern recognition. But in terms of conscious entities, we are not there yet. Conscious artificial entities, we're not there yet. I don't even know if that's possible. Philosophically and scientifically, I'm not even convinced that it's possible. However, let's see. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here, 23 minutes. So this has been episode 8 or episode 9. I think actually episode 9 of Project Arkangelos. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the follow button, subscribe, like, leave me a 5-star review, share this around. Your support means everything to me. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great day, a great evening, a great week, a great month, a great year. Enjoy the rest of 2024. I wish you the best for 2025. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you very much. Peace and love.